Credit cards. A credit card allows you to make purchases without accessing your bank account. It can be useful to buy things when you're short on money. It allows you to earn rewards, and it may have perks like extended warranty on what you purchase. Let me give you an example. Let's say you buy a TV with your credit card, and let's say that the store you buy it from or the manufacturer of the TV gives you a 1 year warranty. Well, let's say a credit card gives you an extra year warranty on the TV. And let's say a year and a half later, something goes wrong with the TV. Well, your credit card, because you paid with your credit card, will cover any kind of problems you might have with the TV. Like if all of a sudden the TV dies, then the warranty may cover you replacing that TV. Also, if you drive and like if you ever rent a car, if you pay for it with a credit card, often credit cards will also pay for insurance on the car. Usually that's an upcharge, and a pretty significant one actually. But if you pay with a credit card, it's not an upcharge because it's included with as a perk of using that credit card. A credit card has a credit limit. The credit limit is the maximum amount that you can charge to the account. Okay? Every month you receive a statement that has your balance, that's how much you owe, and it gives you a due date. The balance is what you owe, and the time between the purchase date and the due date is called the grace period. So let's say that the due date is January 4th. If you pay off your credit card by January 4th, you'll pay no interest for what you bought with it, which is kind of nice. Some cards have a revolving balance. The revolving cards allow you to make a minimum payment instead of paying the entire balance. Most cards, like if you heard of Visa or American Express or MasterCard, those would have a revolving balance, generally speaking. If you pay the card in full by the due date, you pay no interest. If there's a charge remaining on the due date, you pay a finance charge, which is interest. You pay interest on whatever's left. Okay? We'll talk about this in just a second, but first, like some stores used to give you credit. Maya would remember this. You remember when there was the grocery store, Rick's Family Foods? So like Rick's Family Foods used to have accounts and where you could buy groceries and not have to pay for them right away. Like I don't think many people use them, but like it'd be nice if you were on a fixed income or maybe you were elderly and you were on a pension or younger or whatever, where you could buy groceries and you can have a balance. So like you could buy like $300 in groceries and not pay for them. You could just put them on your account and you could pay them off later. And stores in general used to do that a lot in the past. That stopped being a thing a while ago, quite a while ago. In fact, the grocery store here doing that was something I hadn't really seen all that much prior to coming out here. So I think it's a thing that only certain places might do, and maybe almost no places do nowadays, where because of stuff like credit cards. Because if you can get a credit card, well, if you can't really afford something temporarily, you can use a credit card. Now, there's lots of pitfalls of credit cards. If you allow your credit cards, if you just rack up the charges on your credit cards and you don't pay them off, you could buy a $90 pair of shoes, and basically because you're not paying it off on time, you can end up paying to the tune of about $300 for that same pair of shoes. So you have to be very careful with your usage of your credit cards. If you get too crazy with them, it can get to a point where you can never pay them off. And that puts you in a really tough spot. And you don't want to go down that road. However, you know, when saying that, some of you may think, well, why would you have credit cards in the first place then? For a couple reasons. First of all, they're great in an emergency. You know, let's say hypothetically, you have a loved one. Let's just say you have a loved one in Winnipeg, and the loved one has a non-life threatening illness, and you need to go help take care of them. And let's say that you have to get on a flight from Flin Flon today to go there. First of all, you're going to be paying out your butt because like right away flights are super expensive, but that might not be cash you have on hand. Well, a credit card could allow you to go do that. So a credit card is great in an emergency. If you want to book flights, if you want to book like trips, you almost need a credit card for that stuff. Companies won't rent you cars if you don't have a credit card. But maybe the most important use of credit cards is coming to building your credit. Chances are in your lifetime you will buy a car. And there's a very good likelihood that some of you, maybe all of you, will buy houses too. When you buy a house or you buy a car, you want to have good credit. And what I mean by having good credit is that you've shown a record or a history of paying things off on time. Even if you didn't pay your credit card in full, if you make all of your credit card payments each month, that helps your credit score. And if you do that, if you pay your bills on time, you have a good credit score. And if you have a good credit score, there's a lot more that goes into a credit score, but paying your stuff on time and consistently helps you have a good credit score. So if you have a good credit score, then you can get approved for loans, number one, and you can get approved for lower interest rates. So hypothetically speaking, if you bought yourself like a really nice $40,000 SUV, you might get a really nice interest rate when you go buy that SUV, and that would save you a boatload of money versus your friend that has to pay a higher interest rate because he or she didn't pay their credit cards responsibly and didn't have a nice credit rating. So credit cards are useful, but you have to be careful with them. That's all. Now, there are different types of credit cards. Here's a few of them here. Your standard credit cards like Visa and American Express, they are revolving credit cards. They have a limit. They're accepted at most stores. They usually don't have fees. They might have rewards. It totally depends on the credit card itself. Like if you're going through TD, for example, TD might have a credit card that has no rewards, that might have no annual fee, but then all of a sudden they might have we have all these rewards and perks in this other credit card, but then it would probably have an annual fee. Now it says that American Express makes you pay in full, and that's just like right here, monthly. I don't think they do. Like I think American Express is just like Visa and MasterCard, but there might be some credit cards that do require you to pay in full every month, and they'd only be accepted at some stores. They would have high fees, but they could have better rewards. But for the most part, I think actually American Express is bundled in with Visa and MasterCard in terms of being, American Express isn't accepted everywhere, but it does allow you to have monthly payments. There are limited purpose cards. They are revolving. You would have a limit on these. So they would be like store credit cards. And I really get a chuckle out of seeing Sears. You guys have heard of Sears, the department store? Yeah, it's no more anymore, unfortunately. When I was a kid, though, that was like the store. But that's, of course, before I ever knew what a Walmart or other places were. But anyway, you can get a store credit card. Store credit cards have low fees, perhaps, but they haven't in really high interest rates. The interest rate on a typical credit card might be 20%. The interest rate on store credit cards can be as high as 30%. Some examples of store credit cards nowadays, most stores have kind of gone away from them, but I know that like if you can get like a Best Buy card, and that card is only usable at Best Buy. And there would be other stores that offer their credit cards too. So anyway, that's what those limited purpose cards are about. They're only really usable at that one store. Okay? Now, let's say right now you apply for a credit card. And like, I don't know if any of you have had summer jobs or whatever else, but if you haven't had summer jobs or whatever, you might get denied for a credit card. Now, typically, actually, I think you have to be 18 to apply for a credit card. But the point I'm trying to make is if you apply for a credit card and the company does not think that you'd be a good fit for a credit card, almost always you can apply for what's called a secured credit card. A secured credit card is basically this. You pony up your own money, maybe $500. You give it to the bank or whatever. And now, whatever amount of money you give them, that's your credit limit. Okay? And over time, if you use it responsibly, they'll be like, oh, hey, they're using their card the right way. Now we're going to give them a standard credit card. And then what they would do is they would give you a credit limit that they thought was acceptable based on whatever your credit score is and your credit history, and they would return those security funds to you in the form of a check. So you'd get your money back. And so a secured card is a nice way to get a foot in the door. And again, it goes to what I said earlier. You cannot rent a car nowadays unless you have a credit card. So there are some applications where you need a credit card. So by having the credit card, not only can you improve your credit by consistently paying your bills, but also it's a good way of saying, if I need to rent a car, if I need to book a flight, I've got something that can help me do that. Okay? All right. Let's do a couple examples here, but first we're just going to touch on one more thing. It just talks about the credit rating thing. Make sure you use your credit wisely. So, like, even when you have a phone, let's say you get a phone from Rogers or Bell MTS or TELUS or whoever you have a phone with. If you make your payments every month and it's you making the payments, that's part of your credit score. So just be careful with that kind of stuff and make sure to pay your bills. Ashley works as a receptionist in Russell. She has good credit rating. She wants a no-fee card. She plans to pay off the entire balance monthly, but may occasionally need a month or two to pay it off. What type of card should Ashley apply for? So, to suit her needs, a standard card would suit her needs best. Okay, Darren receives his credit card statement. So let's look at some things here. He has a balance of $944.95. He has a minimum payment of $19. He has an interest rate of 29.99%. Ooh. Now, that interest rate is compounded daily, okay? And it's charged on your unpaid balance. He makes only the minimum payment. He doesn't make any more purchases. How much will he owe for the next statement, 31 days from now? How much interest will he pay? So a couple things here right off the hop. We want to figure out how much he has left to pay. So it's going to be $944.95 minus $19. The minimum payment is $925.95. Okay? That's how much he has left to pay. And after that point, we're actually going to use that compound interest formula. You know, the one that I said is going to keep popping up, where it's popping up right now. We're going to use that A equals P bracket 1 plus R over N to the exponent NT. All right, time to plug in what we know. So we get A equals, the P is 925.95. 1 plus. Now it's 29.99%, so that's 0.2999. Now this is where it gets a little ugly because N is 365 because if it's daily, that's what it is. And it's going to be this and I apologize for this. This does get ugly. Well, actually, right here where it's NT, that's basically the number of times the interest compounds. And the nice thing about that is it's 31 days. So that means it's just going to be 31 right here. Now, just a reminder that when we did compound interest, I encouraged you to download the Desmos scientific calculator because it's going to make your life a lot easier. And I'm not forcing you to do it, but it is a free app for your smartphones, and it's going to make this calculation a lot easier. So we have $949.83. That's the balance. That's how much he will owe at the next payment. Now understand this. He made the minimum payment, and he still owes more the next month than he did beforehand. So that means if he makes the minimum payment, he'll never pay his bill off. So that's why it's important to pay more than the minimum payment. Because it'll, like, in some credit card companies will say, if you make the minimum payment, you will not have this paid off for 27 years or something goofy like that. And don't get me wrong, if money's tight a month or two, it's okay just to make the minimum payment. But make that a rarity and not something that you do all the time. Okay? Now, we didn't answer the last question yet, which is, how much interest will he pay? In other words, how much interest did he pay just in that 1 month? Well, we know that this was how much he owed by after he paid the minimum payment, and then at the end of the month, this is how much his new bill was. So all we need to do is subtract those numbers. How much he owes now and how much he owed after making that monthly payment. And it's going to be $23.88, I think. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. Please do. But I think that just by paying the minimum payment, he gets charged $23.88 in interest for that 1 month. And that's not to mention how much interest he'll pay in future months if he doesn't pay it off. So again, I think that just highlights the importance of, if you have a credit card, pay it off on time. It's really important. Okay?